Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello and welcome to the latest episode. It is Friday, the 26th of September 2025, and we have made it through another week. So well done us, because there's so much going on in the world. Some days I think it's an absolute miracle that we make it through another week. So I have lots to tell you this evening. I don't know whether to just talk very quickly or split it into two episodes, but I'll probably just try and talk very quickly. So thank you for your messages. I've received a couple of lovely messages this week, including someone who very kindly said that the podcast is very relatable for her, which is really nice to hear, because I want to reach you where you are. And I'm very, very far from an expert. And I hope you're just enjoying listening and that you get some value out of it. But it's not me being an expert, because I'm very much still learning this whole business. I forgot to say also on the last episode that I did apply for the Floret course scholarship last weekend. So the deadline for that was last Tuesday, and I got my application. So I hope if you were thinking about applying, you managed to get your form in on time. It wasn't a very big one, but you did have to write a little bit of blurb. So my soil blocker has arrived. So I ordered this last week. It's come from a company called Ladbroke Soil Blockers. Now they're a family business based south of Birmingham in the UK, run by three sisters. And these little gadgets, and they are little, they make small blocks of soil with an indentation on the top. And it looks a little bit like a gadget that you'd put a stamp on a piece of paper or something like that. You might already be familiar with them. It's a new thing for me, and because I listen to every single thing that Lisa Mason Ziegler has ever said, pretty much, I'm working my way through all her podcasts, and she uses them to create vast quantities of seedlings. And the great thing about them is that you seem to be able to make lots and lots of these little seed blocks in a very small space. So I completely filled the greenhouse last year, or this year actually, with all my seedlings, and I recycled and reused all these plastic trays and things that I have, because I don't like plastic and I don't have it on the plot, but it's the best thing for getting seeds started for me anyway. And I would love to move away from it. So I thought the seed blocker might be a great idea. And so I should be able to produce large volumes of seed. Whether or not I want to, you'll discover this in part 2 of this episode. But I should be able to do it without needing quite so much space. Now, apparently you do need to use a proper recipe, like a compost recipe, for doing seed blocking. You can't just use regular compost or any of the stuff that I just rummaged around for this year and use. You actually have to do a proper mix so that it stays wet enough to hold its shape. You don't want to just take it out of the blocker and then the compost just crumbles and you're left with a pile of crumbly compost. So I need to sort that out. But Ladbroke soil blockers do give you some recipes on their website, including one from Lisa Mason Ziegler and also Monty Don. And I think they've got their own or their grandpa's recipe on there. And I have mentioned the name of the company a couple of times. That I have paid for the product. It's not an advert or anything like that. You know me, I hate taking money, so there are no ads or sponsorship or anything that would actually pay for this podcast. But I'm just telling you the name in case you want to actually go and buy one. So, a little bit of chicken news for you. My baby girl Mo has been to the vet. She went yesterday. She's got some abdominal gynecological issues, I think. I didn't actually know what was wrong with her this time. For quite a few issues, I know what it is, and I just go to the vet and say, it's this, give me this, and they do it. But this time, I really didn't know what it was. So bless her, she had to have a rectal examination, and I did feel for her. Her face was a bit of a picture when it was happening. Bless her, but she's had some anti-inflammatories and a long-acting antibacterial shot, and I must say she's better already, which is amazing. Now, Mo is our resident feather eater. Don't know why I'm thinking about pheasants. I think it's because I saw a lot of pheasants while I was driving around today, and I've got pheasants on the brain. Mo is a feather eater, and she's also responsible for eating Gooseberry's bottom earlier in the year. So if you've been a regular listener for a while, you've lived through that saga with me, where somebody ate Gooseberry's bottom and we got that surgically stitched back together, and Goose is absolutely fine, come back into lay, had a baby, so everything is fine. So I did know that someone was eating feathers. I just didn't know who it was, and to be honest, I didn't want to believe that it was Mo, because Mo is like one of my main girls, and she was hand reared by me because her mum died when she was born, and she lived with me and was raised with me. And sometimes they do have some issues when they're hand reared because they're not quite sure whether they're a chicken. They don't quite know where they fit into the pecking order. And Mo's just taking no notice of the pecking order. She just does her own thing. She's quite a character. But I did work out it was her causing the problems. So she's been isolated for a couple of days. And then she's obviously she's had these flare ups. Like her mum is one of these chickens that you get in intensively reared birds, one of the sort of brown, the hybrid orangey brown birds. And I've had a few of those over the years, and they just have terrible gynecological problems because they're just not geared to survive or be alive more than maximum 18 months. Anyway, I should stop because this is not a program about chickens. Just suffice to say, I have another wonderful vet bill that's just been invoiced to me, but hopefully she will make a full recovery. And then when she goes back up to the rest of the flock, I need to find somebody that's going to be able to live with her, that she isn't going to eat their feathers. And that's going to be challenging, to find someone that she is not going to just dominate, because sometimes the chickens just stand there. Clearly, they just stand there while it happens. I don't see it, but it must happen because she doesn't pin them down into a corner. I've got cameras up there, so I mean, I know there's nothing violent going on. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, what was funny, one final story before I go. When the vet was giving her a thorough examination, which cost an arm and a leg, and he was looking under her wings, and I said, "What are you looking for?" And he said, "Oh, I'm looking for mites or lice or some kind of infestation that could be like overwhelming her system." I said, "Mo's a cannibal. Like, she eats anything that moves. Like, there won't be a mite on her. We don't have a single mite in the entire flock." We only had that red mite issue earlier in the year that I was telling you about, because we sprayed the perches with car spray paint. The red mites live in the hen house and they come out at night. Anything that lives on the birds, Mo will eat. So I said to him, "You won't find anything under there. That she's as clean as a whistle." And she was. And cannibalism actually is a thing. That I went to a sanctuary once up in the Midlands, and they had a whole group of cannibal birds that lived together in a sort of mutually assured destruction pact, where nobody would eat anybody else because they all knew that someone else would eat them. Very funny, and never thought it would happen to me, but now I've got one. Right, crashing on. Work continues on the bed preparation. So bed 3 is going to be sorted out tomorrow, and then there's some bark to go down on bed 2 and 1. I've been harvesting some more seed. The sweet peas have made quite a bit because I didn't end up selling very many of them. More of that in part 2. And I've been doing a massive, massive spreadsheet because I can't help myself. I love them. I used to do data analysis in a former life, and I'm quite geeky with spreadsheets. And I thought, I can't wait until December to do this spreadsheet because I really want to know what's been going on over the course of the year. So I thought I'm going to start doing it. And I've been collecting data all year. So I've made a spreadsheet, lots of tabs, and I haven't included the time it spent me to do the watering this year, because I was just really bad about that. And I've been collecting data on absolutely everything else, but the watering, because it was a little bit ad hoc. And then, of course, we had a drought, 4 heat waves, and it all got a bit mental. And I just stopped writing it down. But for every variety that I've grown, and there's been far too many, I've calculated the number of stems I've sold per month and the amount I sold them for. Then I've got a tab for revenue per month, a tab for cost of production and sales so that I can work out net profit, And I haven't yet added in all the extras like compost and twine, but I thought I'll share my interim findings with you now, and then I'll have a better idea later. I've got a tab for the invoices that I've raised per month, a tab for sales per client, and then that was quite interesting actually, so I can see how much individual clients have spent with me, and then a tab to reconcile every other tab. And that took quite a while because I had like £6 that I was out, and I was absolutely determined that I was going to make the whole thing balance across the board. So it took me quite a while to work out that there was some numbers that I hadn't accounted for. And then I've sorted the sort of master tab, if you like, in order to work out my net profit and also my 10 most profitable plants. And that's what I thought I'd share with you this evening. And it's been really fascinating because if you're a regular listener, you will have joined me on the journey from all the seed sowing that started early March. I was like ahead of the curve. I did loads of successional sowing. I was literally on it. And then what happens is that you get into the craziness of the summer and you can't even remember your own name. But the point being, I sowed loads and loads of seeds this year, and I was very excited about all the annuals I was going to be doing. And so in my top 10 most profitable plants, so this is sales minus all of the costs of production. And that includes like the sowing, the planting out, staking, mulching, anything like that. And also, I should say that I've taken the dahlias out of the statistics completely because if I added them in, it would just wipe out everything, like just because I've spent what feels like forever babysitting them. So, for the purposes of not depressing myself completely, I have jiggered about with figures and taken all the sales of the dahlias out. So, what I've ended up with in my 10 most profitable plants is only one annual, just one out of all those varieties that I did. And that was the sweet peas, the straw flowers, the zinnias, the nigellas, cornflowers, the stocks. What else did I have? Nigella, the scabious, the giant scabious, the breezer, the little tiny grasses that the rats or mice just ate them overnight. They were all gone. The cosmos, the calendula, the ami. What else was there? White cornflowers, amaranthus, the status, the orlia, didiscus. Yeah, absolutely loads. Just one annual has made the top 10, and that is the cruspedia. And that's my little yellow golf balls on sticks that have been absolute troopers. And I've sold 3 flushes of those, and there's another flush out in the field that still need to be sold, but I'm not sure that I'm selling anything at the moment. So that was really interesting because I have spent what feels like a lifetime this year sowing and planting out and watering and caring for annuals. And the result is that just one has made it into the top 10. So very, very interesting lesson there because I have just spent, I'm just slightly crying inside at the amount of time that I've spent on the annuals and how much of the rest of my life just completely fell off a cliff while I was doing it for only one of them to appear in the top 10. Now, to be fair, the scabious are in number 11 position. So they are literally just outside of the top 10. The others that made the top 10 are the 2 foliages that I have, which is hazel and beech. And the only reason I made any money on them is because they're already growing in the field. So all I had to do was cut them down, and I had no involvement in that in terms of looking after them. 3 shrubs, that was hydrangea, phlox, and lavender, and 4 perennials, which weren't even one of them was the Verbena bonariensis, which I didn't think that anybody had actually bought this year, and I have been badgering my wedding florist constantly to buy more. And then when I look at the stats, I'd actually sold enough, and I think also that they were self-seeded from last year, so they didn't have any kind of production costs or anything. They were just what was left over from last year, or they were self-seeded. They overwintered. So that's why they've made it into the top 10, because I didn't actually have to spend any time on them. They got mulched and staked, but that was it. And then the echinacea, the rudbeckia, and the achillea. And the achillea I actually bought from J. Parker's actually in 2019, and they've just been hanging around in pots and trays. So it took very little time to plant them out, and actually they got planted out last year anyway, but I've included the planting out time in this year's figures. Don't know whether that's right or not. It would be great if anything I planted in 2024 I didn't actually have to include in 2025's figures. Maybe I'll look at that. And yeah, the echinacea I bought as plants last year, and the rudbeckia I bought as plants. So I think it's safe to say that anything that I haven't really had to touch, so 90% of stuff that I haven't had to have anything to do with whatsoever, has done really well and been really profitable. So I think the message there is that I should just steer clear of annuals and not twiddle about with anything, because anything that I haven't touched, apart from the cruspedia, has done really well and been very profitable. So I feel a little bit despondent about that. I think it basically just says that I'm an idiot and I should just not grow any annuals or just not touch anything, really. And so my overall profit margin, bearing in mind this is without the compost and without watering costs, is a whopping 54%. And according to AI, because I had to ask AI what they thought, whether it was any good or not, they said, and this is a direct quote, incredibly rare achievement and signifies a highly efficient and profitable business. So you know that that's a load of rubbish, because I've just told you that the figures are all a bit nonsensical and are definitely not highly efficient. And it's probably because I haven't included the labour costs for the dahlias. I took the dahlias out completely. I haven't included the watering time. And I also haven't included my labour time for deadheading the cornflowers. I've just realised I've not included that, which would, I think, wipe out all profit, because as you know, if you listened regularly in the early summer, I felt like I spent every waking moment deadheading those cornflowers. There has to be a better way of doing it, assuming I even grow them next year, and I'm not sure I've got the willpower for it. Also doesn't include the cost of the podcast. So very, very interesting figures, and all of that messing around was just enormous waste of time. Just kind of, yeah. Anyway, that's where we are with that. Interesting figures. And I think once I've done a really full reconciliation of the whole year, I'll be able to come back and report back on that. But I think it's so interesting to do this, because I don't know whether you do this, but you think, oh, that's a really profitable plant for me. That sells really well. Or I sell high volumes of something, or I sell that one for a really high price. And it's not until you actually go back and see how much time you actually spent on that plant, or that variety rather, and what your production costs were, that you can really make an assessment on how well that plant has done. And this is why I haven't included the dahlias, because I haven't sold very many stems, and I know that the production costs for those were absolutely ridiculous. So very, very interesting. And I would love to know if you go through and calculate all of those figures for your growing, and if you're recording all of this data about how much time you're spending and cost of everything. I think it's really, really fascinating. And if you get the time, I would love to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Insta and let me know what your experiences are and what you think about all of this. So I probably actually have spoken far faster than I needed to there. And that's all I've got to say for this evening, actually. The weekend is going to be spent doing some more bed prepping, and maybe a little bit of cutting back of things, although some things, including the cosmos, are just doing really well out there. They're not apricot anymore. They're kind of buttery yellow, but they're going great guns. They clearly not got the memo that we're in autumn now. And Some other things, I was looking at the snaps this evening. They've gone the most gorgeous pale pink colour. Now they're a sort of Madame Butterfly bronze, and they've been really dark and gorgeous. Now they've just gone really pale and gorgeous, so that's quite interesting. And I'm going to try and get as much of my sweet pea seeds harvested as possible. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend wherever you are and whatever you are doing. And please do come and join me for the next episode, which will be Tuesday next week. So that's it from me, and all the very best to you.